Hey, what's up, guys? Just got done watching the last movie on this triple feature put out by Wild Eye, and I wasn't really sure what to expect with these. I had heard of Caesar and Otto like a year or two ago. I think from the Deadly Xmas one when it came out, I remember a few people saying that Caesar and Otto were actually pretty funny. So they've always been on like the back burner of my mind, but I never really looked into it that much, just because normally I'm not a big horror comedy fan. I don't know. I don't really usually like a lot of horror or comedy with my horror. But what I like about this is right off the bat, it's not intended to be freaky at all. It's just a straight up like spoof comedy. This is essentially kind of like I would compare Caesar almost to Ernest, but more adult version of Ernest, kind of just the way he hops from different scenarios and holidays. And he's so over the top, but like in an enjoyable way, like Ernest. You know what I mean? It had like a really nostalgic feel, just the way, because I grew up watching Ernest and stuff like that. So it had a really nostalgic feel in that way, because you don't really see comedic actors like that anymore. And there's obviously going to be a lot of comparisons to Caesar or to Laurel and Hardy and Abbott and Costello, just in the fact that one of them's heavy and kind of subdued, while the skinnier, smaller one's just way over the top and real energetic and hyper. And it works really well. I mean, these do have a low budget, but I found myself laughing quite a bit, especially Summer Camp Massacre. I like that one a lot because it's basically just a straight up spoof of a sleepaway camp. It even has Felissa Rose, and there's some really good like throwbacks to sleepaway camp in that. Like just for a few, for example, like in the original sleepaway camp, there's a famous scene where dudes are trying to talk to her and she's just looking blankly at them and like kind of creepy, not saying a word, just blank staring at them. And there's a scene where Otto goes up and sits next to her and just hitting on her and all that, and she's just blankly looking at him, exactly how she did in Sleepaway Camp. And Caesar's, and then he gets up and Caesar's like, and he tells Caesar, he's like, yeah, I think she's really into me. It went well. Caesar's like, she didn't say anything to you, and he's like, oh, she's like that with everybody. And then this one, a better looking camp counselor sits down next to her, and Felissa Rose is all of a sudden, oh, hey, whatever the name is, she's like, oh, hey, how's it going, blah, 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 like all cheerful and cool with it. And it was just really funny. And she even tells Caesar, she's like, yeah, I stayed at a sleepaway camp one summer in the 80s or whatever, and they used to torment me. Caesar's like, why? And she's like, because I had really hairy legs. And it was just really funny. There's a lot of really in-jokes that are like there specifically for horror fans. If you're a big horror fan, you should check these comedies out, because they're pretty much like a more lower budget scary movie, but I actually kind of like them a little bit better than Scary Movie, just because there's more obscure in-jokes if you're a fan of horror specifically, whereas Scary Movie was kind of more like making fun of horror in a real mainstream way. Like they were making fun of more of mainstream movies that like everyone would get, where this is more like geared towards horror fans, you know what I mean? So it was really enjoyable. I really dug it. There was a lot of really funny moments, and Caesar in particular was really funny. And there were some really cool cameos too, like in Sleepaway Camp, Felissa Rose, obviously. Brink Stevens was in the beginning of it. And Joe Estevez, who was Martin Sheen's brother. And there was a lot of Martin Sheen jokes in it. And another thing I found really refreshing about all these movies is the political incorrectness. It's always really refreshing to see that in movies nowadays, just because everyone's so worried about being politically correct, and everything has to be really watered down humor now and all that. And this one really, there was a lot of like jokes where they just weren't afraid to go there. I mean, in the beginning, particularly of Summer Camp Massacre, and I keep referencing that one because it was my favorite out of the three, although the other two were pretty good though. But there was one in particular where in the beginning, Caesar ends up getting in this screaming match with this like big dude, because he's a taxi driver in the beginning, and the dude comes over and he's intimidating him, and he calls Caesar something. I don't remember what he calls him, but Caesar gets out of the car and starts just wailing on the dude, punching him and all that. And then you find out later he's the mentally challenged brother of the police chief or whatever. And this is one of the funniest laugh out loud moments. the cop on TV is like, oh, when I find the guy who did this to my brother, I can't even say what I'm gonna do. And you see Caesar like thinking like what the cop would do to him, and he's like, oh no, not my nipples. And you see the police chief like giving him titty twisters, and it's really over the top, just ridiculous humor. It was really funny, you know. And the second one is a straight up spoof of Silent Night, Deadly Night, and it even has the lead singer of CKY as the Killer Santa, which was a really bizarre cameo, but I just found out he's the husband of Felissa Rose, so it makes sense. But yeah, it's cool that a CKY cameo was in there, and I remember thinking in the first one I watched, Summer Camp Massacre, that Caesar looked a lot like a young Lloyd Kaufman. And oddly enough, in the second one, Lloyd Kaufman has a little cameo in it, which I thought was really cool. And I also want to say, stay for the credits at the end of all these, because even in, which one is it, Deadly Xmas, Robert Zdar from Maniac Cop has a little cameo. And there's a little cameo again with Brink Stevens at the end of Summer Camp Massacre. But Deadly Xmas was kind of cool. Especially if you're a fan of Silent Night, Deadly Night. There's a lot of playoffs on that, a lot of spoofs on it. And there's even Linnea Quigley has a little cameo, and she dies in the exact same way she did in Silent Night, Deadly Night. So I thought that was a really cool throwback. I'm not giving away any spoilers because this is just meant to lampoon basically those movies. So it's not really a spoiler type movie that you should be worried about. But yeah, really enjoyed Deadly Xmas. And then the next one, Paranormal Halloween, I really enjoyed too. It's more of a spoof of like haunted house films, particularly like from the 70s and stuff, like Amityville Horror and The Exorcist, and there's some Shining spoofs in there and stuff like that. It was just really well done. There's another cameo by Brink Stevens and stuff, and Paranormal Halloween was actually my second favorite out of the two. The humor pretty much stays the same in all three. If you like one, you're going to like the others. They're definitely a comedy duo that I'm definitely interested to see any future movies they put out. You know, I had some consistent laughs with all three of them. You know, like I said, I'm not a huge horror comedy fan, but I would have no problem putting this on the shelf right next to a Scary Movie 1 and 2, Tucker and Dale vs. Evil. You know, this goes right along with them, you know. This is, you could tell, because the director is Caesar, you could tell he has a love for horror, and it definitely shows, just with so many in-jokes. Like, it really makes you appreciate the fact that you're a horror fan when you get all these jokes and you're kind of like, you know, laughing at stuff the normal person wouldn't really laugh at. So, you know, I definitely give it a pretty good recommendation. Like I said, horror comedy is not usually my thing, but I enjoyed them. They're all quick. You know, it's cool. I'm sure you can get this. I don't really know how the price of it is, but I'll link it on the Wild Eye website in the comments, and I'll link an Amazon link too if you want to get it on Amazon also. I don't know how much it is, but it's definitely worth it. I mean, you get 3 movies and a 4th bonus feature, which I didn't watch the 4th one. It's the original Caesar and Otto movie, but yeah, I just wanted to watch the 3 that were kind of featured here on the cover, and yeah, definitely a fun time, especially if you're like drinking or something like that, or you just have a group of friends, particularly a group of horror fans. You're gonna have a real fun time watching these. But yeah, I'll bring another Wild Eye review for you guys in the next day or two, just because I got a couple more to review. And the next ones, I actually wanted to get this one and the last Wild Eye film that I really enjoyed, Jurassic Dead, out of the way, just because the rest are just straight up horror that I'm really excited to check out. And some of them I've seen had like cameos from Brad Dourif, who played Chucky, and I know there was like a found footage one. So yeah, I'm really impressed with Wild Eye recently. I've seen a couple in the past, like Secret Santa and a few others that I enjoyed pretty well. But yeah, these ones they sent me, they're doing pretty good in my mind. Pretty good films, actually. Highly surpassed expectations, you know. Like I said, I wanted to get them out of the way because I thought I was actually not going to dig them. Because like I said, they're more goofy kind of horror. That's why I didn't think I was going to dig them. But I actually ended up having a blast with both of them. So yeah, you know, I'll link it below if you're into horror comedies at all, or if you're just into Scary Movie or Tucker and Dale, definitely pick it up. But anyways, guys, peace.